It is. Would you please come forward and present your bill? Maxwell, I'm sorry. Wherever you're comfortable. That'll be great. Can we?
Yeah,
probably?
pull a chair.
This was our retirement room for many years. I am familiar for being in here, and poor old Tom Knox never got John Meadows and myself separated in 4 years when Meadows and I were with. Well, thank you, madam. I appreciate that. But I don't mind being called my good friend. Thank you, Madam Chair, and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today. I'm here with House Bill 341. As far as I know, we don't have a substitute. It's still LC 287485. I'm bringing this bill actually on behalf of a constituent of mine, a gentleman back home that's heavily involved in the inspection of our buildings. And he had asked me about this last year. We started looking at it. Didn't get the legislation like we wanted it. Everybody got the copy? I met with several folks this year about this piece of legislation. There's quite a bunch of folks here I'd like to recognize. We've got Tracy Hester here. I believe he signed up to speak. He's with the he's the Albany building official, and he's the BOAG president. Bill Chambliss met with us when we talked about this, a past BOAG president. We got Ted Militatis with the DCA code manager. Ted's here. Bill Duck, Columbia building official. Bill's here. Mark Woodall with the ACG, Associated General Contractors. Mark's helped me on this. Austin Hackney with the Home Builders Association of Georgia. Ron Anderson was another gentleman that does BOAG training for plumbing. I sit in on a training class last summer in Paulding County for a couple hours. He taught a 6-hour training course on plumbing for BOAG, and that was out in Paulding County. All of Northwest Georgia came out and was trained in plumbing, so I got about 2 hours education on the new plumbing requirements that's coming down from the Fed. But anyway, I'm going to share this letter from Mr. Hester and what we're attempting to do, and then I'll go into legislation. I'll try to make this quick. I know y'all got a lot of items on your agenda, look like, and hopefully this room full is not here to hear me talk about this little bill. But what we're attempting to do is provide additional opportunity to persons wishing to become a qualified inspector pursuant to requirements under OCG 82261. The Builders Office Association of Georgia offers this legislation that would allow a person to obtain a certification from BOAG as an additional option to what they have now. The current law requires a state licensee in one of the trade areas or a certification from the International Code Council in a given trade area to be considered a qualified inspector. Basically, that's taking a course on a computer, and if you pass that course, computer course, you're able to be a qualified inspector. And BOAG has a lot other years' experience and different requirements for that. BOAG is a legal corporation in the state of Georgia. It's been here since 1958. They're promoting the professional and educational needs for inspectors and building officials throughout the state and across Region 8 areas of Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. They partner with the Home Builders Association of Georgia, as well as the Association of General Contractors of Georgia, other professional associations like the Georgia Plumbing Trade Association, Air Conditioners Association, International Code Council. BOAG is recognized as a leader in promotion of code development, professional advancement, and a safe built environment. The inclusion of a BOAG certification here will strengthen the current requirements while offering an additional option to someone working in a local government environment. BOAG certifications not only require testing certification from an accredited source such as ICC, but they require the professional credits, years of service, verification of work experience, and they provide a higher level of qualifications than just an education or taking of a test. BOAG has 5 levels of certification. They graduate from the least experienced 1 to the most experienced 5. Level 1 is not being considered in this legislation because it's belief that this level is intended to provide our opportunity to have the smaller counties, smaller jurisdictions. They can have trained personnel and accredited to perform their professional level without having to expend the time and money needed to achieve other areas of qualification. They have qualified inspectors, but these they're still recognized throughout the state, but a level 1 does not have all the requirements. That's for the smaller areas, smaller constituencies. This legislation will provide BOAG with a stronger and more recognizable place in the promotion of code development in Georgia, and as well as ensure a state level that qualifies the qualifications of inspectors throughout the state meet the expectation of the construction and the development industry. And that was sent out from the President, Tracy Hester. I've got these folks here to help me today if I run this bill in the ditch and I can't answer some of y'all's questions. They're here to help me pull it out. Basically, the bill goes through, and it's repetition in a lot of different areas. On line 13, we're talking about the 1 and 2 family inspectors, and we're adding on lines 14 through 19. They can qualify as a 1 to 2 family dwelling inspector if they have a certification from the ICC as a building inspector, or a certification from the Builders Office Association of Georgia meeting the minimum experience and testing requirements as set forth in their certification levels 2, 3, 4, and 5. For each of these levels requiring a tested certification from ICC or other Building Officials Association of Georgia committee-approved testing agency. And then we're going in and said if these folks are already certified as at that stated level, they are deemed to be a qualified inspector going forward. We're not going to make them go back and take additional tests. If they're already deemed to be a qualified inspector and have been an inspector at level 2, 3, 4, or 5, they're deemed to be an inspector for whatever test that the BOAG comes up with in the future. And that's repeated on lines 34. We're talking about commercial electrical inspector or electrical contractor. We do the same for them. On line 44, we've got a mechanical inspector or a plumbing inspector. Line 56, mechanical inspector or a air conditioner, a conditioned air contractor's licensed. I have a hard time putting those words together. They go different for me, but a conditioned air contractor license. That's on 56 and 57. On 67 and 68, we're talking about a plumbing inspector or a journeyman plumber or a master plumber. Then on line 78, we're talking about a 1 and 2 family dwelling inspector. Their trade names or the different trades they have, a level 1, the basic inspector that doesn't require the testing, they can do building, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and a rehab for 1 and 2 family dwellings. That's just inspector. A chief inspector, level 2, does plumbing, electrical, mechanical, and building. The level 3, the combination chief inspector, he does the rehab, 1 and 2 family dwelling, building, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. The level 4, the plans examiner, he does the rehab, 1 and 2 family dwelling, plumbing, electrical, mechanical. And then the professional building official, level 4, he can do all these things, or level 5, I'm sorry. So I've got the definitions for all these folks here, but we're just basically asking for the BOAG certification to be allowed in Georgia code, so these guys can get a certification through our local BOAG agency. And that's pretty much it. I'll try to answer questions or have these gentlemen here to answer a question. I think maybe a couple of them have signed up to speak, Madam Chairwoman.
Questions from the members of the committee? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Chairman, how do people, or how are they certified today?
Today they have to go through and take that ICC examination. They sign up on a computer, take the certification, and to get these different licensings, they have to have a point spread right here. To get a level 2 license, they've got to take the test, and they've got to have a minimum of 60 points, and the points are added up based on how many years they've been in the trade, how much experience they've had.
Replacing that mechanism with a BOAG mechanism of certification.
We're just allowing the BOAG to be an additional level of certification.
Okay. I'm all in favor of people being certified and this kind of stuff. BOAG is a voluntary association. You don't have to be a member of it. Is that right?
That's correct, sir. Yes, sir.
And so we're putting into the law that in order to be certified, you're going to be certified from a voluntary association.
That would be correct then if they're a voluntary association. Yes, sir.
Well, I think in the past, what we attempted to do is, and if I can remember correctly, because I used to represent the CPA Association, so forth too, where they provided basically all the continuing education for accountants, but we never put in the law that they had to get it from a voluntary association. In this case, we'd be putting in the law that you have to get certification from this voluntary association.
You don't have to get it there. It's just another option. That's another option that they will have. It's not required they get it from there if they don't want to be a member of BOAG.
Okay.
It's not requirement. It's just another option. We're allowed to continue the options we've got forward. The BOAG contention is that the ICC is just a internet test. Somebody can study and take a test and not have any background experience. And I believe that's where we're coming from with that. BOAG does require all the experience levels.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Questions from members of the committee? Yes.
You are adding additional level, though, and maybe Mr. Hatcher could, I know him well. We're from Albany. We know each other extremely well. You're adding another bureaucratic level to the requirements. I mean, are we going to require that, like in Dougherty County, from going forward, or are we going to require?
I'll let Mr. Hester address that.
If I may, basically, this is not a requirement.
Excuse me, will you identify yourself?
I'm Tracy Hester. I'm the current president of BOAG, and I'm also the Development Services Manager in Albany, Dougherty County. To answer your question, sir, this is just another option. We're not replacing any of the two requirements that are there now. This just gives someone else an option without having to be a licensed contractor, which eliminates a lot of people because taking that state license test has its own basic requirements that not everybody qualifies for. So this would allow that person maybe to have a second option to be considered a qualified inspector under the law.
Satisfied. Okay. Are there any other questions? Anyone else would care to speak on this?
I think someone else had signed up, I believe, Madam Chair.
Well, I see Mr. Hester
And Bill Duck.
and Bill Duck.
I'm with BOAG also.
All right. And did you wish to say anything?
Nothing additional to what's been said.
Thank you very much.
At the proper time.
Thank you. This is the proper time.
Make a motion to pay.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? No? Is there a no? Not I, no. Your bill is passed. Thank you very much, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here with us. Thank you. You're welcome to stay, or you may go. Imagine you want to go. Certainly. Very well. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
May I be excused for a few minutes to vote on this other bill and comment and then come right back?
That'll be fine. We still have a quorum. And I'm going to take this opportunity to allow the young lady in the red sweater who I left off of our last introduction. She is our aide this year, and I'd like her to just tell you a little bit about her name, and where she is being schooled.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen Abrams. I'm a third-year public policy student at Georgia Tech, and I'm interning this session in 401 with Chairman Rogers, Chairman Tankersley, Chairman Sims, and Chairman Pruitt. So.
I unfortunately left her off of our first meeting, and I felt so badly, and she does such a good job. She's the one that supplies all of our information, so I just wanted to be sure that she got the proper hello from all of us. Chairman Benton. Chair. Yes, Chair. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee, I'd like to present to you House Bill 50. House Bill 50 is a bill that was that passed this committee last year unanimously. and got to Rules Committee and got stalled there. But what this bill does, and it includes all of these items, plaques, statues, markers, banners, structures, memorials, that we are asking that they be left in their current state or position or location. If they need to be moved, and we're not saying, we're saying the bill, it is in the bill that says that there's nothing in the code section that shall prevent an agency from relocating a monument when relocation is necessary. What we're looking at is those periods where somebody just decides, well, that monument doesn't go along with my way of thinking, or and we need to move it. And so it could affect all the Confederate monuments in the state. It could affect the Henry Grady Monument in downtown Atlanta. It could affect any monument that a town has chosen to put up, or a group of people have chosen to put up in the center of town, and somebody with a different point of view comes along and decides they want to move it. If they are moved, then we would like to have them relocated in a like place of prominence. In other words, you can't stick them off in a cemetery or a mausoleum or something of that nature. One of the things that was added to the bill last year at the suggestion of Representative Buckner and Representative Green was that these historical road markers that you see alongside, those for some reason just seem to disappear, and nobody ever knows what happens to them. There was an incident last year down in Augusta where a lady complained about the verbiage on a historical marker, and some people from DNR came along and just took it up. We don't know where that marker is now, but those markers cost about $5,000 a piece. And so we would like for it to be where if a city or a county decides that a monument needs to be moved, that it be moved to a like place of prominence. We're not saying that they can't move them. We're just saying that we don't want it moved to a cemetery or mausoleum or off in a pasture somewhere, like the Iron Horse has happened down there at below Athens. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. I do have an amendment that I would like to add to the bill. It would go in section on the second page, line 51. And I'll read the amendment, and I'll give a copy of it to the chair lady. And starting with the words "conduct prohibited," and we still have those lines marked out. This code section shall be enjoined by the appropriate superior court upon proper application thereof. Any person or entity adversely affected by a violation of this code section by a person or entity other than an agency shall have the right to bring a cause of action in the Superior Court of the county in which the monument was located for injunctive relief, damages, or both. Any person or entity adversely affected by a violation of this code section by an agency shall provide written notice to the governing authority of an agency alleged to have violated this code section. The agency shall have 120 days to investigate the allegation and take action to return the monument to a location in compliance with this code section. If the agency fails to take action at the expiration of 120 days, the person or entity adversely affected by the alleged violation may bring a cause of action in the Superior Court of the county in which the monument was located for injunctive relief against an agency. I have put this in here at the request of a couple of groups. They were concerned about the sovereign immunity of the state and all agencies being waived. Of course, if Chairman Willard's bill passes the Senate, we won't have to worry about that anymore. So that's the amendment that I'm proposing to add to the bill. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, sir. Your amendment might take care of part of it, but let's say if I damage something, then I have the resources to pay to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say a derelict comes along, a drunk or a street person comes along, and they destroy a monument. They've got no money. They can't replace it. It's now not a misdemeanor. So what happens, what action to be taken against this derelict that destroyed a monument? And I think most monuments are probably destroyed by people who really probably can't afford them to replace it. It's no longer a misdemeanor. Would the county have to go to court?
I can't answer your question on that. I don't know on that.
Right now, it'd be a misdemeanor if they did it, and so it'd be something on their record. With this change, there might not be anything on that person's record. Is that correct?
I don't know the answer to that either.
Anyone? Warehouse. Elam.
I support the concept, but do you think that we might get into the area? I mean, we're growing so fast in some of our areas in Georgia, some of our towns. Is this going to restrict that growth? That'd be my only concern. Other than that, I support the bill.
Well, the bill states that it does not prevent an agency from relocating a monument when relocation is necessary for the construction, expansion, alteration, that type of thing. We're not keeping them from doing that. We're just saying that if you move it, then we want it put back in a light place of prominence. In other words, if it's on a main street somewhere, then I ought to find another spot on Main Street for people to see it.
I'd like to move the bill forward and work with the author to see if we can get an answer to that and maybe, try to resolve
Okay,
it.
be glad to work with you, Representative.
Right this moment, we have two more questions,
Okay.
I believe. Please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Is there a current situation or problem that made you propose this legislation?
We have up in our area a great deal of growth, and we see monuments being moved. Up to this point, they have been placed back in light places of prominence. But there's always the thing that, for example, the monument of Henry Grady over here in Atlanta. People might take exception, even though he was a great publicist and reporter, and a great spokesman for the New South era of that time period. They might take they might feel a little ill will toward maybe his politics, and that could change here in Atlanta, and all of a sudden that statue's gone. And where do you find it? Well, it got stuck off in Westview Cemetery, where very few people will see it, or something of that nature. We want to make sure that those things we don't mind new monuments being put up. In fact, the bill would protect new monuments the same as it would protect old monuments. Those people that want to erect monuments to, but this not only takes into, and I know there's some people that might have a problem with the Confederate monuments, but this also takes into account monuments to Revolutionary War heroes that could be moved as well, because maybe they owned slaves, or maybe their politics was not what we want to think now. Think about all those monuments that are in downtown Savannah that, should anybody decide to, they could be moved because they disagree with maybe not what they fought for, but what maybe they stood for after the fighting was done.
Is that sufficient?
Yes, I guess maybe a follow-up question. Do you think that if people find, I guess, some of these monuments offensive, they shouldn't have the right to change these monuments if they see fit, if the population that's there see to change those monuments?
I think history is history, and history is we have the good and the bad. Now, I know a lot of people that are all bent out of shape for states' rights right now. Well, that's what the people in 1860 in the South were standing for too. So it just because a group comes along and decides, well, that's not what they stand for, you better be careful, because if it happens to you, if you do it to somebody, it can happen to you as well. on anything that you erect.
Representative Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to just make sure, we had a movie here, I think this summer. They came in and took all the pictures down.
Mm-hmm.
And when they moved the pictures, number one, would this prevent them from doing that? But if it didn't, would it be okay for me to, I don't like to assume, but to say they're responsible for putting these pictures in a safe place
Mm-hmm.
and making sure they're put back up exactly the way they found them? Is that something that would prevent this, but then
No.
again, would it hold them responsible?
No, but it would hold them responsible. They would be responsible for damages to the paintings or frames or whatever might happen to that. And I was in here one time when they were moving all that stuff, and I mean they were handling all that stuff with kid gloves.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another question, or please, Representative Buck?
I just wanted to clarify that on line 17, when it says marker, is that where you're referring to the bronze historic markers
Mhm.
that we were trying to
Yes.
protect? We have had a problem sometimes if they're on the side of roads and there's a road widening, of them being either destroyed or misplaced and they don't get put back. And I've worked with a number of historic societies, and raising $5,000 for those bronze markers take a whole lot of chicken barbecues, and so I would like some kind of protection for those markers, and I appreciate you including that in this bill.
Yes, we have another. All right.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In line 17 through 22, you seek to redefine what could be considered a monument, and it includes a plaque, structure, name, or display. Can you please explain why these should be considered monuments?
On line 17.
Through 22.
Mm-hmm. Well, all of those things could be a marker or a memorial to a particular group of people. We have plaques on cemeteries that designate an area as a historical area, and so you wouldn't want somebody coming in there and moving those things out.
Am I correct? I think this bill is to represent a numerous people, and the protection of things that we hold dear, whichever
That's correct.
persuasion we may be.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bill that protects all of us, each and every one of us, and at the proper time. Oh, pardon. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. Those in favor of the motion to approve, please signify by aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Denton. Yes. Oh, yes, we must adopt the amendment. Oops. As amended. All right, let's get this number. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I overlook someone that needed to speak on this?
Yeah, I'm Todd Edwards.
Oh, Todd, hello. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I'll just speak briefly about the amendment.
Okay.
I'm not sure what procedures may have just transpired.
Since we've not adopted the amendment. My bad.
Overall, ACCG opposes to anything usurping local control over the monuments on its grounds, but they feel that these decisions can best be made by commissioners, those elected and by the citizens and accountable to them. However, should this committee move the bill forward, we would very much appreciate your consideration for the language that Representative Benton has offered. The amendment is handed to you as there's actually one error in there. As amendment House Bill 50 up top should be by deleting lines 51 through 57, not lines 50. And what this does is the current punishment in the bill for local government violating any portion of this bill would be to waive our sovereign immunity. I, like you, are very concerned about the limited, preserving or not spending excessive taxpayer resources on lawsuits. What this amendment does is basically set in motion an ante litem type procedure where those aggrieved with any action would notify the city or the county. The county then would have 180 120 days of which to correct its actions. And if that 120 days expired without the appropriate action being taken, then the aggrieved party would have a right to go to a court to seek injunctive relief, and the court could force us to put the monument back in its place. So that's what it does. It takes out the sovereign immunity part. It allows 120 days, a cure period, to come into compliance, and then it seeks injunctive relief to force the county to put our city to put the monument back in its place. So with that, I would thank you, and I just wanted to explain a little bit about what the amendment did.
Thank you, and I apologize. That is certainly my error. So back we go to the amendment, and do I have a motion that we would approve the amendment to?
Make a motion to adopt the amendment.
Do I have a second? All right. So that is LC 400687 as amended.
So moved.
Oh, one more person. Sorry. Please come forward. Catherine Fleming.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam
Sorry,
Chair, and
Catherine.
It is fine. I'm Catherine Fleming. I'm with the Georgia Municipal Association. We represent 521 cities in Georgia, so 99% of our cities. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on this bill. GMA absolutely understands the committee members' concerns with protecting Georgia's heritage, and we do not disagree with that. However, we believe that this bill would tie the hands of our local governments now and in the future in terms of where they could relocate a monument. Lines 17 through 22 of the bill broadly redefine what a monument is. I think most people think monument and they think something that is permanent and durable and will stand the test of time. This widens it to being a flag, a marker, a structure name, a display, and so it really broadens what we would consider a monument. And on line 21, it specifically states that it has to have been located with the intent of being permanently displayed and perpetually maintained. Oftentimes, I don't think we know if a flag that's been put up is meant to be permanently displayed or perpetually maintained, and so we're concerned that a city could decide to move a flag and then face a lawsuit from an aggrieved party that we have moved a monument. And we'll have to then spend taxpayer dollars fighting that in court. So, and we don't think that's the best use of our taxpayer resources. As mentioned, in terms of when you can move a monument, lines 35 through 43 prohibit a monument from being relocated, removed, or concealed or obscured, but provides for their preservation, protection, and interpretation. I'm not sure that removing a monument in the form of a painting so that a movie can be filmed really counts in terms of for its preservation. The way I read this bill, I don't think you would be allowed to move a monument in terms of you're filming a movie. That would be obscuring the monument, not for its preservation, but for a movie being filmed. So we're concerned about that and a host of other circumstances, I'm sure, where there might be a very legitimate reason to move one of these monuments and you wouldn't be able to under this bill. We appreciate the amendment as offered and that you're providing us some injunctive relief rather than just blanket waiving the sovereign immunity, and we do appreciate that. But going back to when a city can move or a county could move a monument, lines 71 through 77 provide flexibility, but only when necessary for the construction, expansion, or alteration of edifices, buildings, roads, streets, highways, or other transportation construction purposes. When I first read that, I thought, I can't even imagine what other reason we would need to move one. But Valdosta had a situation where one of their citizens was a pilot in Vietnam and lost his life there. And an airplane had been donated to the city of Valdosta to serve as a memorial for that pilot. Moody Air Force Base approached the city and said, we're building an air park, and we think that this memorial would be much better situated in our air park. Under this bill, Valdosta couldn't have said, you know what, we agree, we think this is also a better place for this monument. They would not have been able to move to give that plane to Moody Air Force Base because that relocation was not necessary as specified in this bill. So I just think that our city officials currently have the authority and should have the authority to make decisions on where these public monuments are located and where they should maybe be relocated. And like I've mentioned, who decides that a relocation is necessary? Does a street really need to be widened there, or could it be widened somewhere else? You know, how do you decide if the new location is in a similar place of prominence? How do you decide if the item in question is a monument that's meant for perpetual display and maintenance? And I think that attempting to answer these questions will result in increased litigation and costs that will ultimately be borne by our taxpayers. So I would urge you to actually, I don't even know if y'all are voting again or if you've already voted, but we're concerned with this bill and would urge you to vote no.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from members of the committee? If not, then we are back to the position. Thank you so much. We have had a motion to approve. We've had a second, and now we are continuing our vote with the amendment as read. Are there any questions?
Madam Chairman, could you go over the amendments one more time?
Yes. Amend HB 50 on line 52 of page 2 by deleting lines 51 through 57 and inserting in lieu thereof conduct prohibited by this code section shall be enjoined by the appropriate superior court upon proper application thereof. Any person or entity adversely affected by a violation of this code section by a person or entity other than an agency shall have the right to bring a cause of action in the Superior Court of the county in which the monument was located for injunctive relief, damages, or both. Any person or entity adversely affected by a violation of this code section by an agency shall provide written notice to the governing authority of an agency alleged to have violated this code section. The agency shall have 120 days to investigate the allegation and to take action to return the monument to a location in compliance with this code section. If the agency fails to take action at the expiration of the 120 days, the person or entity adversely affected by the alleged violation may bring a cause of action in the Superior Court of the county in which the monument was located for injunctive relief against an agency. So, do we have a second? And do I have a motion and I have a second? All those in favor of adopting this substitution, this amendment to LC 400687, please signify by aye. Any opposed would signify by no. Thank you so kindly. Okay, let's see where we go. Did we get everybody that was supposed to speak? I hope. Yes. Okay.
That was for the amendment.
And we had already passed the bill. Now we've passed a bill that had an amendment. Okay. Let's see, who would be next? Yes. Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With your permission, I'm going to ask Sullivan and also
Do we have anybody else? Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh. Yes, sir. Will you state your bill number?
a little bit concerned there when my good friend Representative Cook was talking about derelicts and looked at me.
Well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my pleasure to bring you today House Bill 259 on behalf of the Bill Administration. You should have a copy in front of you. I think it's LC 400748. And I think probably the best way to do this, we need to just give you just a little bit of legislative background on what we're doing with this page changes. We'll keep it very simple. If there's any questions, they can be more than happy to whatever concerns or whatever I can answer them. First of all, the legislative background on it, it goes back to the 2012 legislative session. This bill is known as the Georgia Business Act. It goes back to the 2012 legislative session of the General Assembly. At that time, it passed House Bill 863, which was also one of the governor's bills at the time. It's a the bill that amended Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia related to state purchasing of goods. Basically, what we did during that time was to increase the threshold that state agencies could spend without the administrative burden of competitive bidding. We took it from $5,000 to $25,000. Prior to that time, there has not been an update.
As far as the amount of money, purchasing amounts in over 10 years, and the previous $5,000 no bid limit had not been adjusted for inflation or anything like that. Also, small business was defined as an independently owned business with fewer than 100 employees or less than $1 million in gross receipts each year. With this bill, HB 863 redefined small business as a business with fewer than 300 employees or less than $30 million in gross receipts per year. But what we did was we put a 3-year sunset on it, and it will expire in July of 2015. And quite frankly, that's why I'm here today. The bill has been very successful. The sunset has as we feel, no longer needed. We've seen success stories come out. It's reduced administrative costs. It's reduced regulatory burdens, and it's given more flexibility to our purchasing people. And quite frankly, has freed up some things. We've got some really good success stories that to back that up. So that's the first part of the thing right there. Is the bill takes and eliminates the sunset. Second thing that the bill does. So just to make them simple, make permanent the increase, $25,000. Makes permanent the expanded definition of small business, and it defines Georgia-based businesses independently from small businesses, permitting DOAS to implement policies and business procedures to ensure that a fair number of contracts are awarded to Georgia and to small business. What it does is it gives Georgia businesses and small businesses more of an opportunity to participate. And that's, I think, a good thing for all of our communities. And then finally, the last thing is it would allow for agencies through DOAS to contract for automobiles that are built by Georgia manufacturers without going through the formal competitive bid process. They would still be subject to DOAS guidelines and oversight, but that's it in a nutshell right there. It eliminates some sunsets, redefines small businesses and Georgia business, and then allows us to remain loyal to the people who come to Georgia and invest in Georgia through automobiles.
Any questions?
Good. Floria Rogers. Does that mean that the state agencies now will be able to acquire Porsche automobiles without a competitive bid?
Only if my good friend Chairman Chokus gets the first offer on one.
At the appropriate time.
Are there any other questions? Oh, yes, Representative Donahue.
Mr. Rogers, let me ask you just, Representative Rogers, to explain the 5,000 to the 25,000. Just if you can give me an idea of where that come from.
Well, we've had it for the last 3 years.
Okay.
We raised it from 5,000 to 25,000 3 years ago.
Right.
And during that time frame, I could read you success stories all day long. Letters coming in from people. What it does is it gives more flexibility. It also allows us, if you look at surrounding states, Florida, Tennessee, states of this nature, their limits are actually even higher than the 25,000.
Okay, thank you. I saw that and I wanted to.
Yes, sir, and it has been, and quite frankly, that is the reason I'm here, is because of the fact that it has been a success. It's freed up some people. It's freed up a lot of administration bureaucracy, and because of that, we've been able to save money all the way down the line.
Thank you.
Yes, at the proper time. We have a motion to pass and a second. Any other questions? Anyone else here to speak on the bill? Then I'll entertain a vote of yes for approval. Aye. Yes. No. No no's. A unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Did a grand job.
Thank
We
y'all. I
appreciate
appreciate
it.
your consideration.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to seeing you on the House
Thank you for
floor.
success stories. Those are always good.
Guess what?
Are we almost done? We've got one more.
That's why I brought the bill.
I know.
I figured you did.
You have to go. Huh? Yeah, this is a big one.
I know. I'm going to be right back. Trust me.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, okay, so, where is our...
He's right.
Okay. Yes, now we have Chairman Chokas. We have asked that you would present your bill, please. House Bill 255, and yes. Yes. Yes, of course, you may do it from there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm bringing before y'all House Bill 255 by committee sub, and the LC number is LC 4008788S. And to simply put, to define this bill, I think it's more of a protect Georgia jobs and fairness. The forestry industry represents about a $29 billion industry, and thousands of Georgia citizens and taxpayers work in it. HB 255, to give a bill summary, current law requires state agencies to use Georgia forest products when constructing and repairing state buildings. And what this bill does in the first part of the bill, it merely clarifies these provisions. It clarifies the definition of green building standards. Green building standards means any system or tool created to rate the environmental efficiency and sustainability of design, construction, operation, and maintenance of a building. It clearly defines state building, basically, is that state building means any facility owned, constructed, acquired by the state of Georgia or any department, board, commission, or agency thereof, including state-supported institutions of higher learning. It clarifies the terms constructions, repair, and includes renovations. No contract for the construction of, addition to, or repair or renovation of any facility, the cost of which is borne by this state or any other department, agency, commission, authority, or political subdivision thereof, shall be let unless the contract contains a stipulation therein providing that the contractor or any subcontractor shall use exclusively Georgia forest products in the construction when forest products are to be used in such construction, addition, repair, renovation, if the Georgia forest products are available. The second part expands the list of acceptable certifications for forest products to include certification used by Georgia forest owners. If the state or state entity uses green building standards that give certification credits, then the standards used must also give credits equally to Georgia forest products certified by Sustainable Forest Initiative, SFI, the American Tree Farm System, ATFS, and the Forest Stewardship Council, FSC. Currently, Sustainable Forest Initiative and the American Tree Farm Systems represent over 4 million acres of timberland in the state of Georgia. The Forest Stewardship Council only represents 32,000 acres. Sustainable forest management, as defined by the 1992 United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, requires a balance between meeting the forest resource needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to do the same. Sustainable forest management involves practicing a land stewardship ethic that integrates
Silviculture, reforesting, managing, growing, nurturing, and harvesting of trees for useful products with the conservation of the soil, the air and water quality, wildlife, fish habitats, recreation needs, aesthetics, and beautification. And these are represented by the three certifying organizations that I just mentioned. The SFI, Sustainable Forest Initiative, is the world's largest single forest certification standard by area. U.S. Green Building Council refuses to recognize SFI. The ATFS, the American Tree Farm Systems, is the United States' oldest family forest certification program. In 1941, the American Tree Farm System began promoting responsible forest management in our nation's private forests, long before sustainability became an issue. I have more comments that I would like to make about this bill and talk further about it. What we're doing is codifying what the governor has done by executive order. And at this time, if it's possible, I'd like to, or appropriate, I'd like to call on Steve McWilliams to bring some more facts to this. And I would also like to pass out to committee 2 handouts, if that would be okay.
That's fine. Are you asking Mr. McWilliams to come
Yes,
now?
ma'am, if that's okay.
Oh. Yes, if you'll identify yourself. Mr. McWilliams, can you maybe sit there so we can have a mic for you?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Steve McWilliams, and I'm the president of the Georgia Forestry Association, organization that's been around for about 107 years advocating for Georgia's forest and forest product companies. I want to thank you for the opportunity to address what I consider a very important issue for Georgia's most important renewable resource, and that's her working forests, and for all of the companies that utilize material from those forests to produce the products that we all use all day long, every day of our lives. And to those who grow these forests across 22 million acres of private forest land in the state of Georgia. There's more private forest land in the state of Georgia than in any other state in this nation, and many people do not realize that. Each of you would have received a packet from us perhaps a week or so ago. It would have looked like this. And yesterday we hand-delivered to you kind of a revision of my prepared remarks, wherein I had added some items that I thought might be very helpful to you. And I hope you've had a chance to look at that. Some of the supporting documents actually included definitions for the numerous acronyms that pop up in a discussion of green building, and if you had a chance to review those, that will be helpful too, but I'll try to clarify where I need to for you. I think most people on this committee will remember, or do remember, a country singer, Barbara Mandrell. One of her favorite songs, or one of her most popular songs, was "I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool." Well, what I want to say today is that Georgia forestry was green before green buildings and LEED and USGBC ever entered the vernacular. That is why we have 22 million acres of private timberland now, wherein it used to be, there was a time, I don't know that anybody here is old enough to remember this, but the landscape of Georgia was pretty much devoid of trees. We were big cotton farming and other farming and a lot of poor cultivation practices, and it wasn't until we began to learn that there were products that could be made from trees that landowners, private landowners, began to invest their time and their years into growing trees in this state, and that's why we're the #1 commercial forestry state in the country. Our forests depend on markets. At the Georgia Forestry Association, our goal is to make sure
that there are no obstacles to our private landowners selling their timber for any reason, not only anywhere in this state, but anywhere in the world. As Chairman Chokas, whom I am very grateful for having brought this legislation, the purpose of House Bill 255 is essentially to reinforce and to codify Governor Deal's 2012 executive order, which mandated that green building standards be used in the construction of state buildings, first of all, and which prohibited the use of green building standards that do not give equal credit to wood products certified to any of several certification standards. And the chairman did a good job of mentioning the Sustainable Forestry Initiative American Tree Farm System, which is where most Georgia wood is certified, and then, of course, the Forest Stewardship Council, where a very, very little or small amount of wood is certified. The Green Building Standard, which gives less weight to the Sustainable Forestry Initiative and American Tree Farm wood, and which brings us here today, is the U.S. Green Building Council's LEED standard, L-E-E-D, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. While the LEED building standard gives a credit preference to Forest Stewardship Council wood, of which there is very little in the state of Georgia, and actively discriminates against non-FSC certified wood, other reputable green building standards recognize Forest Stewardship Council, Sustainable Forestry Initiative, and American Tree Farm System wood equally. I was going to recite for you the numbers of certified acres in Georgia and the program that they're certified under, but the chairman did a good job of doing that, so I'll dispense with that. An explanation of the LEED standard and its treatment of forest certification can be extremely complicated. But the principle at stake here is very simple, and this is what brings me here today. Georgia-grown products, including wood and fiber, should not be locked out of any markets in this state, especially those funded by taxpayers. Those landowners who have taken the time and paid the price to obtain certification in any credible forest certification program should not be arbitrarily blocked from the marketplace. Now, I want to be clear here, and that is if this legislation were to pass and not another stick of Georgia wood was ever sold into a LEED certified building or any other building, the principle here rises above even that. That we want to be fair to the people that have invested their money, their years, their families' time into growing their trees, and not to discriminate against them. Unfortunately, the U.S. Green Building Council's LEED standard, and by the way, I'm not anti-LEED. LEED has done some good things and continues to do some good things. I'm just pro-Georgia forestry. The LEED standard contains a major flaw by not giving equal credit in its certification point system to wood products that are grown in Georgia under all reputable, widely utilized certification systems when certifying the LEED building. The Georgia Forestry Association sees House Bill 255 as a continuation of the support the legislature gave to our state forest landowners and forest product businesses last year when you voted overwhelmingly to eliminate a ban on structural wood use in public schools in this state. I'm sure you recall that. Today, in our view, you have another opportunity to strike down a threat to the use of Georgia-grown wood in public buildings paid for by Georgia taxpayers. And it's important to remember that this only applies to state buildings. It does not apply to any projects in the private sector. We believe that House Bill 255 is also consistent with and relevant to Governor Deal's emphasis on competitiveness for Georgia businesses and the state's campaign to promote Georgia-grown products. And while this legislation applies only to state buildings, we would point out that a green building standard that treats American Tree Farm System certified wood, Sustainable Forestry Initiative certified wood, and Forest Stewardship Council certified wood equally across both the public and private sectors would benefit Georgia businesses, builders, contractors, taxpayers, and consumers who most often prefer buying timber harvested in their state, as they do other products. You might be interested to know that the state's own energy efficiency and sustainable construction standards, called Georgia Peach, do not favor any particular green building rating system over another. Georgia Peach was adopted, you may recall, in some of you, in 2009 as a result of the passage of Senate Bill 130 in 2008. Getting to the purpose of the language on line 28 and 21 of House Bill 255, it's simply to remove an ambiguity about what happens if a green building standard does not give equal credit. Unlike the governor's executive order, House Bill 255 does not require that state buildings be built to green standards, but just says that when green standards are used, all the certifications must be treated equally. So we're just asking you one more time to stand up for Georgia landowners and Georgia forests, Georgia wood producers, product producers, and give a due pass to House Bill 255. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I should have said we do not have this room for the rest of the day, so we're going to have to move along a little bit more rapidly, but thank you so much for your testimony. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? May we allow anyone else to speak before the author? And if you don't mind, I'm sorry, I should have put time limits, and I apologize.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and if you'll identify yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'm David Friedman. I'm Executive Director of the Georgia chapter of the U.S. Green Building Council, and thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and distinguished members of the committee. Prior to this, just a little bit about my background. I was formerly the chief engineer for the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. So I've worked on projects in a lot of your districts. Representative Green, I've worked on everything from wastewater treatment plants to golf courses and hotels. Representative Buckner, I had the privilege of working on the Little White House historic site and everywhere in between. But as representing the U.S. Green Building Council, a couple of things, and Mr. McWilliams did a good job explaining the lead rating system, so I don't want to go into that. A couple of things, though, about the bill, and one where it says you can use other lead rating systems. The only other rating system out there that anyone would use is called Green Globes. And Green Globes, it's actually a system that was developed in Canada, and it was developed by the forestry industry. And just to give you some statistics, the Green Globes in Georgia, there's 20 Green Globe projects compared to over 1,500 LEED projects in the state of Georgia. So why we would give preference to a system that's not even developed in this country, that really doesn't have the market share or the recognition of the LEED rating system, I'm not sure exactly why. Now, when the governor's executive order was issued a couple of years ago, I did some research, and at that time there were 29 projects that were LEED certified, 29 state projects LEED certified. Of those 29 projects, two out of 29 used FSC lumber. The value of that lumber on those two projects was $200,000. Now I think we heard the Georgia forestry industry is, $29 billion annually. It's hard to see how $200,000 would impact a $29 billion a year industry. The other thing I like to point out, most LEED projects use very little lumber. If somebody uses FSC lumber on a LEED project, it's typically casework, cabinets, things like that. It's I'm not aware of any project in Georgia that was wood frame that used FSC lumber. Everybody wants to use Georgia products, and the LEED rating system allows that. Now, what the LEED rating system, the way it works, it's a point-based system. There's 110 points total. There's 1 point, 1 out of 110. It's not a requirement. It's an optional point, where if you use a certain percentage of FSC lumber, I think Mr. McWilliams explained that, you can get that point. But there's also numerous points you can get for local and regional materials that far outweigh any of the points you can get through the FSC program. Now, those 29 projects I talked about, just to give you an idea of what they did do, which were some of the good things that Mr. McWilliams mentioned, they saved on average 25% less energy than a code-compliant building, 29% less water. This is a big one. They diverted 67% of their construction waste from Georgia landfills. That waste did not go into Georgia landfills. It was diverted to other uses. And 19% of the building materials in those projects were regional materials, meaning they were extracted, harvested, and manufactured within 500 miles, primarily in Georgia. So yes, LEED does promote and uses state products. I mean, that's one of the good things. And the other thing, how do I know these numbers? That's one of the advantages of the LEED rating system, is it makes you quantify these things. So whether you actually take count of these things during construction, or you do some kind of predictive analyses, you're able to predict and quantify how your building's going to perform, which is an important thing and why the LEED rating system is so popular. Just a couple of state LEED projects I want to highlight for you real quick. One of the first ones was the Swanee River Visitor Center in Fargo. Who's been to Fargo? Anybody? Okay, several of you. Okay, great. All right. So you probably know. So anyway, the Swanee River Visitor Center, that project was built on land donated to the state of Georgia by Superior Pine. Superior Pine, a huge timber company in South Georgia. And Superior Pine worked closely with the state during the design of that project. We're in full agreement with the LEED certification process. If you've been to the Swanee River Visitor Center, that is one LEED project, almost 100% wood construction. All the wood came from within that local area, and in fact, the poles that were used in that structure, the contractor actually went to Langdale Forest Products nearby and actually hand-selected the poles to go in there. It doesn't get any more local than that as far as using Georgia products. The other thing about Swanee River Visitor Center, Governor Barnes attended the groundbreaking ceremony. Governor Perdue was there for the dedication. Speaking of Governor Perdue, one of his legacy projects, the Go Fish Center, LEED certified, the first LEED certified fish hatchery in the state of Georgia. A couple other ones in Representative Buckner's district, the Little White House Museum, one of the first LEED certified museums. In Chairman McCall's district, Richard Russell State Park Golf Course Clubhouse, first LEED certified golf course clubhouse. Chairman Smith's district, Chattahoochee Bend State Park, first LEED certified state park.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
You got to cut me
We
off.
have, yes, sir, we do. We have about 5 other people that
Okay.
would like
All right,
to
let me
speak,
just
and
end-
we don't have the room.
Let me just one thing, if I can. On the FSC thing, I would just say in 2011, there were 0 FSC forests in Georgia. Now there's 30,000, and that's all part of the marketplace transformation that LEED does. So LEED works in Georgia. It's created jobs. It created a market for green products that didn't previously exist. Weyerhaeuser has 2 FSC facilities, one in Port Wentworth, one in Oglethorpe. Shaw Industries uses FSC products, and they're hard winning. And I'll end with this one thing. Does everybody recognize this? Everybody shops at Home Depot, right? You'll probably go there this weekend. Next time you go, look at the back of your receipt. It says produced from FSC certified wood. So obviously Home Depot sees value in that, and if FSC is good enough for Home Depot, it should be good enough for everyone else.
Thank you so much. May I have a show of hands for how many people have come here to speak on this bill? Oh, my. Oh, my goodness, more than have signed up. Did you all not all sign up? I have 5 more people, but I have more hands than that. So I'm not sure. I have Suzanne. I have John McFarland. I have John Poole. John Poole. I have Colleen. I have Megan. I have Chad. So those are the only people that signed up. So.
Oh, she's already, yep.
Oh, you're added to the list. Okay. We are trying to get another room because, unfortunately, we had this room booked for an hour. There is a subcommittee from Judicial that is to come here. We're trying to work around them, and I don't want anyone to have traveled here and not be able to speak. So if you just hang real tight with us for a little while, and let's see if we can find another location or perhaps persuade them to go to another location, if you just will give us a moment. Thank you. Oh. Yeah, very, very brief, if you don't mind. We're really trying hard to get everybody in.
As brief as I can. I do have some letters of support that I would like to...
We'll hand those out.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Suzanne Harther, and I'm here to express my opposition to Georgia House Bill 255. As a school program manager for the U.S. Green Building Council and the High Performance Healthy Schools program, I've seen the positive impact of LEED in our schools and feel this up-and-coming market should not be restricted. As the science, technology, engineering, and math certifications are growing in Georgia, many schools involved are using their campus to give hands-on education to their students. This growing field allows students to solve real-world issues and become career-ready students. Students applying for the STEM program at Ford Elementary get engrossed in hands-on projects for their school. They're applying science, math, engineering, and technology to their aquaponics and Victory Garden. Students at Marietta High School are developing a sustainable dwelling project for a community in Haiti. This project is giving them hands-on experience while working with professionals in a variety of sustainable fields. Students at Arabia Mountain High School get real-world experience by doing energy audits for community businesses. While not all of these schools are LEED certified, they know the principles of LEED and USGBC. Such schools as these should be allowed to pursue LEED certification and to use their schools as a teaching tool, which is encouraged in the LEED rating system. Georgia Institute of Technology has championed LEED with 15 buildings on campus that were certified and has been highlighted in many publications for their dedication to sustainability. The Princeton Review of Colleges has recognized Georgia Tech on their honor roll of green colleges. Since 60% of students looking for college are considering a sustainability program in their choice of schools, pursuing LEED certification is part of the marketing plan for higher education institutions. We cannot afford to turn our backs on an industry-known standard for judging sustainability. These are just a few of the 119 school buildings in Georgia that have LEED certified to date. 85 of those are higher education institutions. Some of these schools were recognized just a few weeks ago on February 5th with a proclamation from the governor as well as resolution from the House of Representatives and the Senate stating that high-performance healthy schools are important to the state of Georgia. You are planning to stop that opportunity for other schools. They deserve high-performing healthy schools also. I look forward to working with all the schools in Georgia while using these ideals behind LEED to educate our facilities, staff, teachers, and students to conserve their resources and be prepared for careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, and thank you for going along rapidly. We appreciate that. Mr. McFarland, if you would do the same, that would be appreciated.
I will do my best.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And thank you, representatives of all the people of Georgia. I am not opposed to the bill. I'm opposed to actually two words in the bill. I think the bill is fine. There's two words that could be changed, and this bill would be totally acceptable to all people, I believe, in this room. But I want to ask a couple of rhetorical questions. You can nod your head if you would like to let me know that you heard me. But one is, are you opposed to encouraging strategies that would improve stormwater runoff and reduce the pollutants? Are you opposed to encouraging strategies that reduce the need to spend taxpayer money on more water reservoirs? Are you opposed to wasteful spending of taxpayers' money on energy and other utilities? And probably more importantly, are you opposed to encouraging our schools to have healthy indoor air and lots of daylight, which studies have shown definitely lead to better performance of our future citizens? And are you opposed to a program that rewards Georgia-grown and manufactured products at 3 times the level of one factor that appears to be the heart of this bill, FSC certified wood? Let's just put, we had earlier discussions on the bill that people didn't want to say what's the problem. The problem is FSC certified wood. That's the problem the forestry industry has with LEED. It's 1 point out of 110. The passing score is 40. If you were taking an exam where the passing score was 40 and you had 110 questions to answer and you couldn't answer one of them, would you walk out of that test room and not take that test? Would you not take that exam, not pass that course because of one question? One question that you couldn't answer, worth 1 point out of 110, when you could pass with 40. That's what you're saying if you vote for this bill, that you would stand up and you would walk out. You would throw all of the good things that LEAD and the other rating systems profess because of 1 point out of 110 available when you can pass with 40. There are 2 words that could be changed in section C. On line 30, if you struck the word equally, and on line 32, if you changed and to or. That still allows for the other, it allows all the green building rating systems. It would allow all of the schools, all of the higher ed, K through 12, to pursue whichever rating system they think is most appropriate for them. At the end of the day, it's all about marketing. It's about making things better. Strike equally, change and to or. You've solved this problem. You support Georgia-based businesses. You support Georgia lumber. You support Georgia timber. You support all of the many people in this room today who are here to talk to you about this bill. And most importantly, you would show that you represent all of the people of Georgia, not one industry, granted a large one, granted a very important one. And as a sustainability consultant, I'll just tell you this personally, I never recommend they even pursue this credit. It's too hard to document. I've never earned it on a single project. I'd rather buy local Georgia lumber. It's the more sustainable thing to do. And LEAD recognizes that at 3 times the level of this 1 point for FSC certified wood. So with that, I will wrap up. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you vote for the people of Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Poole? Thank you. If you'll identify yourself.
I'm John Poole. Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. I represent the Georgia Paper and Forest Products Association. Our industry employs about 135,000 Georgians, and I will not repeat what Mr. McWilliams has said other than to say we support Senate House Bill 255. I would like to comment a couple of points here. In 2011, U.S. Department of Agriculture announced a new program to promote wood in green buildings, noting that sustainable forest products can be verified using any credible third-party rating system, such as SFI, ATF, or FSC certification. And to date, we've had, I think, nearly 100 members of Congress and quite a few governors urge the Green Building Council to recognize SFI and other certifying organizations. We would just say that we think the governor's executive order was about competitiveness and fairness, and as major Georgia employers, we would urge you to pass House Bill 255.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Pardon me. Wait, we have a question. We have a question, if you don't mind.
Mr. Poole, being a member of the industry, is it not true that this has been an industry debate and about the Forestry Stewardship Council and LEAD with the Forestry Association and all of the associated companies, that there's kind of been a banter back and forth about why LEAD would support Forestry Stewardship Council over the other certification processes?
The issue has been around for years. Yes, ma'am.
And if I recall, this maybe not this bill, but a bill similar to this has been before us before in the past.
Excuse me 1 moment.
Okay.
Please excuse me, but the kind person that is allowing us to keep this room needs to make an announcement to his people.
Okay. The House Judiciary Committee will move to room 133. If you're in here for the House Judiciary Subcommittee meeting, that's on the first floor of the normal Judiciary Committee meeting room.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt anyone, but I don't want anyone sitting in a room and not knowing where they're going to be. I apologize. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. No, it's okay.
It's okay. The question that I have is, this to me seems like an inter-industry fight that's been brought to the Georgia General Assembly. And I understand that there are some other states that have been bringing these to their General Assemblies. So you don't see any hope of settling this in-house without our help as a General Assembly?
All it would take would be for all the organizations to recognize each other.
And you think passing this bill will make them do that?
That's our opinion, yes, ma'am.
And just for full disclosure, I'm a timber grower. I'm a member of the American Tree Farm system, and I have more than 1 acre of pine trees that I'm responsible for. So I know what this means. I know what the certification means. I know how it has an impact on the worldwide market and our prices when we sell trees, and I know that's our livelihood. My question is that, are we, by doing this, hurting some other businesses in Georgia?
I can't see how. I can't see how competitiveness is an issue.
Okay, so the companies that want to move here and be in a LEED certified or sustainable type building and be able to put that on their letterhead that we're a sustainable company and we're in a sustainable building. If there were a problem with the way this is worded right now, then we're kicking LEED out of Georgia.
That is fine with me.
Anybody can.
This is only for state buildings.
Okay.
This is only for state buildings. This is taxpayer buildings.
Okay.
And this is taxpayer-funded buildings by the taxpayers that we're representing.
And
so what you're saying, if an industry wants to come here with and do what they want to do with LEEDs as a private industry, that's perfectly all right.
point well taken. Let me rephrase it and ask it a different way. Sinus is not working with me here. What this bill says is that if we have to equally apply all of those, then LEED cannot be used for any state buildings. It doesn't necessarily say that state buildings are going to use Georgia wood products. We have a preference for that elsewhere in the law. So why can't we just say that we give preference to Georgia wood products, that we don't care what the certification of the wood is, and that whatever green building standard that a state government that wants to build a building wants to use can use it?
Representative Buckner, I think you're missing the point.
I'm not missing the point. The point is we're mad because the
Oh, no, we're not
Stewardship-
mad.
Well,
No.
all right. We do not like that the Forest Stewardship Council does not honor some of our forest
No,
because
that's
we
not
are
the
not
issue.
certified by them.
Representative Buckner, that's not the issue.
But
the
we
issue
want
is
them
that
to
LEEDs is
recognize-
monopolistic.
Wait. Let's take turns and let's don't argue over one another.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's be organized about our answers and our questions, please.
Go ahead. Your turn.
The problem is LEEDs is monopolistic, and they're not transparent in how they determine what is accepted sustainable practices and what is not. There is no method for the, as Mr. Poole said earlier, for the Sustainable Forest Initiative and the American Tree Farm System, which are older, more established, and have long been promoting sustainability, for them to be accepted. What we're doing is sending a message to open up and be more transparent.
Thank you. The fact that they give preference to the Forest Stewardship Council is known, or we wouldn't be here. They don't lack transparency. We just don't like what they've shared. As an industry, it is not what we wanted to hear. What I think we need to do as the state of Georgia is say, fine, LEED, if you want to recognize that, that's fine. We're going to build our buildings, and I think they should be LEED built. I have written LEED into every bill I could find a bill to write it into, from Jekyll Island to Warm Springs. because I wanted our state buildings to be energy efficient, water efficient, and sustainable. I do not have a single one of them that I've been involved with not have Georgia wood in them. Every one of them have used Georgia wood, and they've still gotten a silver level LEED accreditation.
My question is, if you are not LEED certified, does that mean that you're not sustainable?
No, but what it does for Jekyll Island, for example, is that when there are groups that want to be able to put on their brochure, we're going to be meeting in a LEED certified conference center, and it's important to that organization we get booked instead of somebody else. What it means to
What is more important, sustainability or marketability? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I think it takes one to have the other.
All right. I tell you what we're going to do, because we can sit here and have our conversations anytime
ma'am.
we'd like, but I think the people that have come here to speak at least deserve to speak. So I'm going to excuse the two of you for right now from the conversation unless there is a direction. And I would like to call on Colleen. Thank you so much, Mr. Pooh. Yes, Colleen, if you'll identify who you're with.
Good afternoon, members of the committee and Ms. Chairman. Thank you so much for your time today. I'll try to be brief. My name is Colleen Kiernan. I'm the director of the Georgia chapter of the Sierra Club. I'm also a LEED accredited professional, and before I came back to the Sierra Club, I came here prepared to tell you about some of my personal experience certifying LEED buildings and working with clients who intended to build to LEED standards but didn't go through the paperwork, and those buildings never turned out the way that they wanted them to. But after listening to the conversation, I'd rather spend this time trying to make a suggestion that I think will get us to a place where everybody is happy, and that is I think we can all agree that this bill effectively bans LEED for state buildings in Georgia, and that is not somewhere where most of the people here would like to be. So what I would like to suggest is, following on the speaker who preceded me right before Mr. Poole, to amend Section C to say, so the first two lines would be the same, 28 and 29. The first half of 29 would stay the same, and then from there to line 32 would be struck, and instead it would say, the state shall not seek credit for certified wood and will give preference to timber grown in Georgia regardless of the type of the building standard. So this basically means that the state stays out of this debate between FSC, SFI. Like, it doesn't matter. This debate is going to rage far beyond this room this afternoon, and I could talk to you about why Sierra Club thinks that FSC is superior, but that's not really where I think that we can all get to yes, which is LEED should stay in place as a possibility for state buildings. We should stop this debate about certified wood. We should give preferential treatment and try to use Georgia wood whenever possible, and we all win. We can get our green buildings, we can get them certified, we can leave the 1 point on the table, and we can be clear about what our intentions are. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Oh, restate. If you'll restate your...
I would be delighted to. The amendment that I'm suggesting starts on line 29, halfway through, after the comma after building, and is replaced with, the state shall not seek credit for certified wood and will give preference to timber grown in Georgia regardless of the type of building standard. Period.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the end of that paragraph.
I tell you, we'll get a copy of that, but are you working off of 4008788S?
Unfortunately, I'm working off of 4007787, which was the most recent one online. Apologies.
Oh, okay. The language is not
Okay,
going.
apologies.
So we're looking and we're
Okay.
not seeing what you're saying.
Okay.
So, but we will get
is
a
this the
copy
most
of that.
updated? Could I? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's what I'd like you to
Sure,
do is
I'd be
to
glad
write
to
it
do
and
that.
give it to,
Okay.
so that we might have copies
got it.
and have it right. Thank you
Okay,
so
thank you
very
so
much.
much.
Thank you so much. I have Megan. Megan? Oh, okay. Do we have a question? Oh, pardon. We have a question.
Does the proposal, the amendment you did,
does it conflict or is it congruent with the earlier one? So they're basically saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm taking it one step further, and I'm saying Georgia can be clear. The state of Georgia will not be pursuing the certified wood credit for LEED one way or the other. Like, we will not be engaging in the FSC versus SFI debate going forward. We will leave that on the table. We will have our LEED certified buildings. We will not hit that 1 point as the earlier speaker suggested. End of story. We will prefer Georgia-grown timber in our state building projects. And that's what the legislation will say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Megan, you're up.
Hi.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. My name is Megan McNulty. I'm an engineer with Servidyne, a firm in Midtown, and a member of the U.S. Green Building Council of Georgia. I would like to call attention to the negative impacts that HB 255, as written, will have on businesses, buildings, and residents across Georgia. HB 255 will effectively ban the use of LEED green building standards in state-funded projects, despite the fact the LEED helps grow the Georgia economy. My company, Servidyne, is a Midtown-based engineering firm that employs 7 Georgians, and we're just a few of the 6,800 LEED credentialed professionals in the state. We provide energy and sustainability services to buildings throughout Georgia and beyond, including the historic Hurt Building in downtown Atlanta, Piedmont Center in Buckhead, and Regents Plaza in Midtown. We work with Georgia-based building service providers who use methods and materials that are less harmful to building occupants. And LEED makes these local businesses possible. HB 255 will hurt all of them. In addition to fostering job creation, LEED has positively impacted thousands of Georgians who now work and learn in buildings that are constructed and operated at higher standards because of LEED. This often leads to further economic gain. For example, LEED focuses on improvements to indoor environmental quality, such as increased ventilation, management of air contaminants, and access to daylighting, which are shown to result in quantifiable increases in worker productivity, while reducing absenteeism and illness, which is a win for everyone. I'm not interested in pitting lumber jobs versus sustainability jobs, and I don't think any of us are. We're all here in the interest of all Georgia workers. But passing this bill and effectively eliminating LEED green building standards would have a detrimental effect not only on the bottom line of so many Georgia businesses like Servidyne, but also on the health and happiness of countless of Georgians. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being brief and expressing what you desire. Thank you. We appreciate it. Ms. Epstein. And then we have one more after that.
Hello. Thank you for your time today. I'm Dagmar Epstein of Epstein Group. I was the first LEED fellow in Georgia, and I worked on the first LEED certified building in the city of Atlanta for Georgia Tech at Management Square. I worked on all 3 Atlantic Station office towers and made them LEED certified. I own 2 LEED Platinum certified buildings. One is LEED Double Platinum, and none of them have used the certified wood credit, which is an option because equal credit is given to regional materials, and any well-educated environmental consultant will recognize that not transporting materials from other places of the country is an environmental benefit. So a lot of people here give benefit to the local materials. My firm has worked on over 7,500 LEED projects in over 50 countries. These countries include China, India, Mexico, and Brazil. I'm also working with people in Germany, and I'm aware that as Georgia, as the state of Georgia, we're trying to attract industries from other countries. And we also realize that these people will bring children with them and students that want to go to high-quality schools and universities. And I feel like we need to be competitive with the other countries and not look backwards by adopting systems that restrict free enterprise. LEED was built on a free market economy. It's a non-profit that did their own marketing. And I'm very respectful as a business owner myself of the need for the Georgia forest industry to have a market. But I think they can also market something like a Georgia forestry seal that could also be marketed to state facilities as something that shows a commitment to local materials. And this could be in addition to LEED. LEED has many options. It does not require to use FSC wood. It is simply an option. So given the many beneficial aspects that LEED brings, including to the taxpayers, including the energy savings and the water savings and the healthful environments, I feel like it is inappropriate to make LEED impossible for state buildings. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for signing up.
Madam Chairman, may I ask her one question?
Certainly, please.
How are you currently using LEED standards in regard to the governor's executive order of 2012?
We're using it when we are involved usually for commissioning, and we're using it a fair amount in the city of Atlanta, which has been very progressive. Like we're working with SUA Atlanta on the facility that will now be the events facility at SUA Atlanta, and they want to pursue at least LEED Silver because the city of Atlanta has committed to the LEED Silver standard, a very progressive move. We have, in Georgia, we have continued to provide services that optimize the energy performance. So looking at the systems and the building's envelope, even though we understand that the LEED certification is currently not desired.
With the governor's executive order, you're still able to pursue LEED in Georgia. You just have to give Georgia forestry products preference. Is that correct? If you pursue the LEED?
It has not been an issue for us. Because the FSC credit, I mean, most people don't want to pursue it because it's too expensive and you have to transport materials from other parts of the country. So most people are not interested in it.
But you have gotten LEED certification and you've used Georgia products.
Yes, definitely. Because you get rewards for using materials that come from within 500 miles. And so we usually double the requirements. So we actually double what usually is done. So we feel like we support the Georgia industry.
Thank you.
Representative Hill.
Any other questions?
Yes. Are you of the opinion that we are abolishing the LEED standards in relation to future buildings, public buildings?
From the way the bill is phrased, it seems very restrictive. And I wouldn't want to give people that come here from other countries that impression that we are not equal with other countries in the world and that we don't understand the openness that basically people can pick to do one thing or they can pick to do something else. LEED does not require you to go FSC, so I like the open market.
But are you saying that it would abolish it? It seemed like you started that way and then you...
It's to me, I don't have the exact text in front of me, but it sounds very restrictive. It sounds like it says, unless LEED acknowledges other wood forest standards such as SFI and the Tree Farming Association standard, equally, LEED will not be permitted. And I feel like the right time to bring that up would be to lobby the U.S. Green Building Council. And the U.S. Green Building Council has very high standards, and they want LEED to be a very high target, an environmentally sound target. So my understanding is that they have determined that FSC is a somewhat higher target and has overall higher environmental benefits. And it is not a discriminatory standard. Anyone in Georgia can pursue the standard if they want to. It's a free market economy. People can pursue the standard and distinguish themselves from their neighbors by saying, we are FSC certified. No one prohibits anyone from doing that. And you can also create their own seal, Georgia grown. I would love to see a Georgia grown seal for any product in the state.
Thank you very much. We have one last
Thank you.
floor leader, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
members of the committee and attendees out in the audience that have been very patient. I just want to kind of encapsulate the conversation if we can. I come from the timber industry, from a background of growing timber, harvesting timber. We manufacture lumber, and we see it sold. I believe to the lady that just spoke before me, I think in the very near future, in some of the committee meetings earlier in the session, we are currently working on, and I hope in the near future you'll see Georgia-grown brand utilized on our fiber. That's in the process, but just some of the conversation I've heard, I think we've gotten lost, or maybe it's just me. I could be the only one lost in the room about what we're talking about. I've heard economic growth. We don't want to restrict and hurt the economy of recruitment of buildings and conventions and different people coming in that want to be a part of a LEED building. We've talked about the brand LEED itself and what it means and who it accepts and who it doesn't. But the reality is what we have in Georgia and what our responsibility is in Georgia. And we've got over 24 million acres of timber. I think the number Chairman Chokus used earlier was around 4 million acres of some certification. There's different certifications that make up those 4 million acres. We're talking about 1.6% of the timberlands, and the rest of them, we're not even really taking them into consideration at this time. I want us to think about passing this bill not as a knock on LEED, but as a recognition, and I think our state forester sitting in the back saying, you know what, Georgia's doing a dang good job of being sustainable. We're responsible. We're growing the tons per acre to over exceed what the consumption use is in Georgia. Now, that's pretty impressive when you're the home of as many manufacturing points as we are. I think by passing this bill, codifying the executive order, and moving forward, we embrace what we're doing as a state, being very good stewards of the land and being the top conservationists in the nation in growing timber. I commend, and my friend Debbie Buckner and I, we have this conversation on the floor since the day I got here. How you log, how you manufacture, what you do, what seals on it. She and I agree about the end goal. We just may have different pathways to get there. So with the deepest respect, Representative Buckner, and to those who seem to applaud at different times, I anticipate I won't get that applaud when I get through speaking. But I would say to my state forester in the back and his staff, thank you for paving the way of leading Georgia into being the sustainable, conservative, conservationist that we are in Georgia in the timber industry. And to Steve McWilliams and his team and the other folks that are here representing the timber industry, I'm very proud of what we have done and where we have gone, as I know Representative Buckner is. I would not want to encapsulate any one program that could restrict the use of other goods. And I just think that by passing this, we recognize the sustainability of other products, not just a small portion. So I just want to make sure that we, and again, maybe it's just me that got a little lost in the conversation because I felt like we were in judiciary there for a minute. But I want us to make sure that we're protecting and commending the timber growers in this state that may not be under one certification. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I think you have a question.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Thank you for your
I'd have never
words.
guessed it.
We agree about the certification processes. My difference with you, and we've talked about this, is the way that this is worded, and that by saying that equally those stewards, the three different certifications do lock LEED out. And that there ought to be a way for us to, if we're going to attack something because we don't like it or don't agree with it or whatever, it ought to be not towards LEED, which has actually been beneficial to our state, brought in jobs. It has improved sustainability of state buildings as well as private buildings. So there was an amendment suggested a minute ago that directs it towards that certification process, that if we reworded this to say we will apply for and not use any, we won't claim any kind of certification of wood products or forest products. We just won't claim any of those, and we will just not even ask for that point, and we will go for any kind of green building standard. Is that a problem for you if we do that? Then that puts the fight, if you will, over the Forestry Stewardship Council back with the industry where it should be and not here in the state government.
I agree with you where it takes the debate, but it seems like all debates end up with us at some point. I hate to say that, but it does. I would like to ask the chair and the committee to pass this bill clean as is with no amendments. That's my. I don't get a vote on y'all's committee. Only if you decide to put it to the floor do I get to mash my button. But that's where I would like it. Unfortunately, we're going to continue to have. I think you told me on the floor you've had 6 years of work into this, and I suspect you'll always be working on it, and as will I with you. Yeah. But I think today we'll just have to agree to be on different sides of an opinion that I think the bill needs to go clean.
Well, I find it interesting. For 6 years, there has been a bill to come before this committee, and the author of this bill, I think, opposed it, and we never could get it out of this committee to put Georgia products would be given first preference, any kind of product. And then if we couldn't buy Georgia, we would buy U.S. and then try other products. And we were always told we were not going to be allowed to pass those bills because it would cause undue hardship and competition issues with other states. I buy and sell timber, so I want to sell it for the best price, and I'm not trying to hurt the timber industry, and I want the wood in all of the state buildings to be Georgia grown. But I do have a problem with unfairness. I have a problem with us attacking, I feel like, attacking LEED when we're really frustrated about the Forestry Stewardship Council, and there's a way to fix this where we can maintain LEED and make our point about the Forestry Stewardship Council. And I have a problem with there not being a way to work that out.
Thank you. And I think we have another question, and I believe Chairman Burns.
This may be the appropriate person. I'm not sure if you are. How many projects have been LEED certified since in the state with state projects since Governor Deal's executive order was passed?
I don't know. We'd probably have to go to.
There's been a few, mainly at the university level. But I think the way, if you read the governor's executive order, at the end it says that if an agencies are required to report if they have questions or issues. I don't remember exact wording. I can put that here. And I believe some of the universities, like Georgia Tech, have written to the governor and
on the list.
Haven't been run out.
Here,
That's what?
It says here, each department, office, board, commission, or agency of state government is directed to identify any policies not in conformance with this executive order and submit them to the governor's office by July 1st, 2013. So I do know that Georgia Tech has submitted something.
I guess we should.
Big buildings because it helps them attract better students and better. I'm not aware of any of it.
That leads all powerful, isn't it? Better students and better professors. I'd like to make a motion at the appropriate time, Madam Chairman.
It is appropriate.
Okay.
Thank you, Floor Leader.
It's appropriate time.
Yes, it is.
I truly respect the lead standards and what they mean to stewardship of our environment. But I also respect that there are other people who know about stewardship when it comes to our environment and our natural environment and in the countryside and who produce food and fiber. And I think in out of respect for those people, I think it would be this bill strikes the right note. It strikes the right position as how we address those issues in our state. And I would like to make a motion of due pass.
I hear do pass. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion other than?
Can we take up the amendment?
I think
that was offered?
I think we will not take up the amendment. That is what the chair will rule. Thank you. We will vote. All those in favor of the bill LC 400878S, please signify with aye. Those opposed with no. I count that as 2 noes, 2 no votes. The bill has carried. And thank you, every one of you that are sitting here, for a long and very informative afternoon. Thank you.